I kind of love that countdown music.
I realized something when we started it that I needed to refill my coffee, but here we are. I'm just going to be less caffeine, so that's probably better for everyone. Sorry.
Well, welcome everyone to our Summit post-game show. I have Tim Rodman, Daniel Collins, and Andrew Pistorius with us today. Do you guys kind of want to give a little run through of who you are, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes, why people have kind of joined the live?
Who would you like to go first?
Daniel, you can go first.
Perfect. So Daniel Collins, president of Strategies Group. Been in the ecosystem since construction rolled out. So been along for the ride the whole time. Yeah, have a consulting background. Excited to be here. Yeah, good company for sure.
Woo. Andrew?
Andrew Pistorius, CFO at Mid-States Companies. We're an Acumatica customer using primarily the construction and project management modules along with payroll and kind of traditional finance stuff. So, yeah, interested to see where we end up with this.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for being here. And then last but obviously not least, Tim.
Tim Rodman. I run a website called augforums.com. I've been in the ecosystem since 2013, and I'm now working with an ISV partner called Trailed. We do AP automation.
Awesome. Well, you might be wondering why we kind of got this hodgepodge group of people together on a call, but we just kind of wanted to run through some of the things that were announced at Acumatica Summit, our experiences there, what's to come, and these three nerds will definitely take it to the next level. So
that is what Andrew called our whole company when he was presenting.
I called myself that.
It was on the nose for sure.
Yes. If the
like
shoe
our nerds
fits,
are, yeah, I mean it definitely fits. It fits well. Yeah.
I say that as the most in the most endearing way.
We appreciate it. We're proud of what we are.
Well, just a few highlights from Summit. There were, I think, over 3,000 attendees of Summit this year. So big crowd. Last year at the Wind, it was announced that we're going to be in Seattle next year. So yeah, excited to be in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm pretty pumped. Never been to Seattle. Something new, something different.
I'll play the little video that they showed there.
Cautiously optimistic.
I'm just glad not to be in Las Vegas. I probably would have picked somewhere other than somewhere that far north, but at least it's not Las Vegas.
I'm just worried it's going to be cold. I think it kind of depends on how the weather is. If it's good weather, I think it'll be great.
It's not going to be colder. Yeah, it's not going to be colder than Iowa. So anywhere is up from us.
That's fair.
It's currently 70 out in Atlanta right now, so it's just like it's almost summer at this point. But everywhere's colder than us.
I'm sure everybody will want to be here maybe in 2027. So that's my pitch for Atlanta 2027.
It's good for our budget. Yeah. We got everyone local. Awesome.
So some other highlights were they announced some big partnerships. One with ADP, I believe, some things with Bill.com and Shopify, and kind of moving into some more there we go, there it is on the slide, just moving into some partnerships with some industry big players there. So it's always interesting to see that and kind of where Acumatica falls in the industry. So having those big name partnerships kind of gives me a little bit of hope in that our brand recognition is moving forward, and that there's a bigger piece of the pie for us. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's kind of what that told me.
Yeah, it's nice anytime you get big names integrating, right? That's a win. Obviously, ADP, Shopify, and Bill.com all huge. So, and we actually have at least one, maybe two customers on the ADP integration. So it's running. It seems to be fun, which is good.
Yeah, I have to comment on the Bill.com one from the trail perspective. It'll be a competitor, but as you said, it's a bigger pie now. It shows that I think they'll bring, especially on the QuickBooks side, bring customers in. And you know, a lot of these AP automations, they'll integrate with a bunch of different ERPs, and we'll on the trailed side, we'll be just fine being able to execute, because they typically don't execute that well. But hey, I'll take their marketing and all that.
Well, and y'all provide more services as far as that integration goes than they do anyways. So you'll have a differentiator in that factor. So cool.
Also, I have to show this. David commented Atlanta, please. So there's a lot of votes for coming or bringing Summit to Atlanta.
I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess I grew up here, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot to do, but there probably is. The weather
Coke
will
factory.
be better. That's true. That's true. There's a couple different things you can do in the city. But like I said, most of our team being local, that would be fantastic if we could just drive and not fly across the country. That's our small push for 2026, right?
Yeah. And then I'll get into my last little fluff piece, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes. But so the Impact Customer of the Year was Republic Services. They did a really great session at Summit, speaking about their business and how they're able to kind of recycle some plastics. So that was really cool to see. And then the Customer of the Year was Eastman Companies. They have, I think, 14 companies. Yep, there you go, Tim. 14 companies on Acumatica in multiple different countries. So it was awesome to kind of see those two. And then just to embarrass him a little bit, we have the Construction Customer of the Year, Andrew, with Mid-States Companies on the call with us. So just some fun things. Those customer awards are always entertaining and interesting to see the types of customers.
Yeah. Make sure to grab that screenshot from the video that you played. I'm sorry, I worked on the frame, Andrew. That's the best one I could find without being like this.
I disagree with that, but they came when I was sunburned and needed a haircut. So.
You know what he's about to say right there is it's just math. I mean, literally leaning into that.
Said it. I bet I said it at least once.
Well, I'll let us kind of move away from the fluff into the good product updates and UI updates that they announced. Tim, anything in specific that you wanted to go over from a product standpoint? We can kind of maybe this is a good question. What was everybody's favorite kind of announcement that they made in terms of product, in terms of updates?
So mine's kind of high level. I'm pretty excited about the AI stuff they announced.
Yeah.
I know that everyone kind of had started rolling that out, so I knew we had to see something, right? I don't know if this is legitimate or not because I don't have the access to the team and what they've been working on, but it feels a little bit like the Acumatica team has been re-architecting the underlying elements of the system, setting up the system UI differently, doing all these different pieces that I don't think we see, but they had to do that in order to move towards some of the elements they're now going to roll out over the next year or two. And with the AI piece, I'm excited to see that it's more than just a reporting tool, because I think that's what everyone has kind of moved into, is like, show me this data, and it shows you some data. We can do even more than that with it, which I'm excited about, and we can prompt it specific ways. And I like how configurable I think it will be. That's my thought. Obviously, it's not out, but that was what I was most excited about. I feel like there's ways our customers can leverage it to speed up all the things that they do. Frankly, the services partners can leverage it to implement quicker and faster. I think there's a lot of options once it gets out and fully running. I don't know when that'll be. I think it'll be slower than when it's first released. I think we'll get kind of like a version 1, version 2, but maybe after a year and a half to 2 years of it being out, it'll be pretty solid. It's all projections at this point.
Yeah, I thought the like AI assistant kind of like chat box thing was pretty interesting. And I know they showed it on a sales screen, so maybe we'll have to implement that internally.
We probably will. Salespeople love using CRM, so it'll be super easy for them to adopt.
They do a good job updating it too.
That's their favorite, and leaving notes and all of it. Yeah.
Don't hate.
Yeah, I think kind of in a similar vein, Daniel, I think the AI portion, I would be really interested if like, you know, the reporting side to it, I do think is interesting. I would like to see them push more almost down the like voice side of it. So like what I think about for us a lot of times is when we're in a meeting on a Teams call and someone says, well, what's the hey, well, how many hours did we work there last week? Or, hey, is that thing delivered yet? And so I just think about like some of those sorts of things where it's like, okay, well, if we know that we're talking about a particular project, then we already know the job number, and then we know what orders are open. And so can we go look at, hey, here's a list of all the open orders that could, and what I want is I don't want it to talk back to me, but it's like, if it could be providing context, like almost as like a sidecar to a meeting, right? Where it's like, oh, well, how many hours did you work last week? It doesn't have to say it out loud. That's I think that would be kind of obnoxious almost. But if in that moment it says, hey, on this job, here's how many hours you worked last week, or across all your jobs or something like that. I realize there's a certain amount of context you have to give the system for it to really like anchor itself. Because for us, we have a whole bunch of companies. And so it might be giving me the hours for our manufacturing business when I need it for the construction one. But I start to think about that sort of stuff where it can assist you in normal conversations where instead of saying, oh, let me go look that up. Oh, let me pull that report. Let me go look at that job. So that's probably kind of a step beyond or step or two beyond what they have kind of announced. But certainly the stuff they're talking about, it's those sorts of things seem like they would be inside the realm of possibility at some point.
Yeah, and I had a customer say while we were there that they were thinking about 3 years down the road being able to leverage AI in their system, and that's why they were switching. Like that's why they were cleaning all their data. That's why they were doing this, is to set the groundwork to be able to use it. I believe that was the same customer, and if it was either Tim or Andrew, I apologize I want to give you credit, but they basically said the mobile app is not, we don't even really need it. What we really need is, like you said, Andrew, like a voice to prompt thing where you press a button and say, hey, I'm doing work on this site, or I need to record an issue here, and it'll do that for you, or it'll pull the data for you, rather than having an interface, have a prompt where you voice to text it almost, and it does all of that.
Or even if you're on the way to a job, or you have this many service orders for a field service company, and you're like, okay, what's my next job? Can you put it into GPS, or can you give me the address, or what are the details on the next job? Read them out to me, stuff like that. There was a comment here from Paul that teammate at the hackathon was using voice to interact with Acumatica. So it seems to be on the horizon. There's people kind of talking about it and trying to make something come to life.
I think one of the big questions for me on that is like how, because like every use case in a lot of cases for Acumatica, so much of it is getting it kind of dialed into how you use the system. And so I'm curious as to how you will be able to kind of configure the AI interactions, because, it's like, well, part of, for me, the power in Acumatica, sure, it's a perfectly competent accounting system and purchase orders and stuff like that. But the hard lot for us has come in the customization. And so I'm just curious, it's like, well, are you going to be able to do some configuration on that in a, as like a super user, not a developer, right? Because that for us, that's been the win, is that we don't have to be a developer to recognize the kind of, to cater it to how we work. So that's the part that I'm really interested in, is seeing like, well, how could I configure it to, know that we're talking about this sort of a thing, or and again, to try to embed it into how we are already working. So like for it to kind of come alongside us as we work, not be the new destination. So instead of running a report, I just go type in prompts, because I think that's one of the challenges with it, is like, well, if you have to prompt it to get that information, in a lot of cases, if you have a bunch of jobs, you might as well just go on and run a report anyway, or have the report email itself to you. So I think that's the question: is how can it kind of work alongside us?
I think that'll be interesting.
A few screenshots of that I could show here, and
cool.
I did put right on the front page of the augforums.com website. There's a link to our post-game show here, which will take you to the video and the recording of it. If you want to book a demo of Trail, there's a button for that.
You got a product plug.
I put all my notes from the day 1 and day 2 keynotes, and also the partner session. And then I just put a bunch of stuff in here. But what you're talking about there, Andrew, I did really like at the end of day 2, the AI Studio. So Mike C got up and showed some examples of what they're working on. This is a prototype, right? So this is not in the product yet. But I like the way they approached it, in that first you got an LLM connection. So it's totally independent. You would connect to whatever Chat GPT or whatever you want to connect to. And then you add it onto a screen. You give it a name. So like what they demoed was generating closure notes on a case that, typically when you're closing a case out, you'll just say like case closed, right? Not very descriptive. But you can do the whole prompt in here. And I haven't done a lot with LLMs. Sounds like, Andrew, you're ahead of me. But was this meaningful to you in here, this prompt stuff?
No. But I mean, I've done enough with like just dumb stuff in Chat GPT. I think the generative, like for me, I think there's two pieces to it. One is the generative AI, which is what that is doing, right? It's like creating the write-up for you. For me, I care a lot less about generative AI because more of what we're doing is just math. And so
he said he would. Here it is.
And so because of that, it's like I just care more about like getting data out of corners of the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fetching something that's already there, not making something up.
Yes. Yeah. But I get how certainly when you're talking about like if you've got a service technician or something like that wants to kind of generalize what he's gone through, or someone in CRM that wants to talk about what happened on a case or something like that makes sense. So
yeah,
I think there's probably a need for both.
And I wonder if this could be used for that, because like, see this problem type, they list the options. One of them is license issue down here, and then you can test it out. So you can test it out on a specific case, and it'll show you the response. There's license issue. And then what I also like is there's this update instructions tab. I think it's the next screenshot down. Maybe this one. So see update instructions. Then you can tell it, we'll take the result and go take this piece of the result and go put it in this field, and then this thing and put it in this field. And then you wind up with a button that, because I didn't get the screenshot, but it would actually update those fields on the screen. And that, I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Go grab this from here and put it there.
Yeah. Surfacing things. I think it'll be really hitting its heyday when you don't have to interface with the system to get stuff out of the system.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Like if you don't have to click or type, and you can say, hey, the technician's a good example, but even like a sales rep for us, right? We keep our CRM in Acumatica. Just spoke to Mid-States. They're looking at adding more project issues. Need to follow up with him next week. And then it just does all that and prompts you when you need follow up. So we can get Andrew's project issues.
So just that voice layer on top of what we're seeing already, right?
Yeah, I think the navigation piece in between is what's going to make it not as easy to use, and for people who are just joining. The ramp up time, if you can do mostly things through voice, it would be almost nothing. And people in the field with a phone could update records in the system without clicking a button. That's when it'll be like, this is incredible. It will take time, but that's where I think they're going. I hope. If they're listening, that's where you should go. Take it from us, who probably don't know anything near as much as y'all.
So that was your favorite thing, Daniel. It seems like it was everybody's favorite thing, but Andrew, Tim, did you guys have anything that kind of stuck out that you thought was super interesting, or maybe a game changer for you guys as a business?
I mean, I think for us, the biggest thing that we need to do is we just need to get into some of we need to get on it for like 24R2 or 25R1 when we can, because I think some of the new UI is 24R2, and like even like little stuff being able to get UDFs pulled onto primary summary tabs, and like that's a really niche thing, but it's just one of those things where it's like it's more intuitive if you see the fields that you have to fill out from the very beginning. And so that's not necessarily the thing they announced in those keynotes, but that was the thing that was interesting. I'm also encouraged by the focus they've made on project scheduling. Now, I wish it was native. And I'm still not sure about how well some of the integrations that they have will work for us specifically. But part of that is because we're rather particular in how we use the system. And so, but I appreciate the like that is becoming a focus, because in my mind, it's like that's the biggest gap on the construction side. From my perspective for Acumatica, is getting the kind of just the blocking and tackling sort of predecessors, successors, resource loading, revenue loading, scheduling set up for construction.
Yeah.
Can I get your thoughts on this screenshot? So in the manufacturing area, one of the things they highlighted was this
schedule board.
Does this look like something? My understanding is
that was something that was more. I wish that existed further across the system.
Well, where I'm going with that is, like, my understanding from talking to Mike C about this is it's almost like a dashboard widget. I think that's oversimplifying it, because I think you still have to code it, but it's something that you can plug other data into. So I think it could be fairly quick that we see this roll out on the project side, because actually last year they showed this in the field service module, and they're already showing the same type of view in manufacturing. And so, I think we could probably see it in projects pretty soon.
Yeah, and that would, well, honestly, when we saw that last year in field services, that was my hope, that it would end up in construction relatively quickly, because because even our manufacturing group, we're build to order manufacturing, and so we use the construction module for manufacturing. And so right now, for all of our scheduling, we're basically operating it outside the system and Velixoing it in to get the dates where we want them. So seeing that, I'm intrigued by it, but to me, it feels like it's too far away from construction at this point. Hopefully not.
I think I think, Tim, you're onto something. It's closer than you'd think, Andrew. I don't know this for sure, but when I was in conversation around the schedule board prior to this new version, they basically said they have to rebuild the whole platform for that. Whatever setup they had to rework it. So they did that over the course of a year and a half or so.
Interesting.
And because they have this new option, this new platform that's more flexible, that's why I think they can roll it out to all these other areas. The question I have is, what level can I schedule at? I think they need to do it. I think there need to be options, not just task. Task is the easy one, but a lot of time a task is made up of 20 different budget line items, right? Yeah. And you want to schedule out specific budget line items, but sometimes task is fine. So maybe there's a toggleable option.
Yeah. See, in my mind, I would say you're right. And especially depending on how people interact with the system,
it's all different.
Yeah. Cause a lot of people, they break out like the different kind of phases of a task into account groups, right? So it's like, well, they might buy a product that's in a task, and then they might interact with it from a labor perspective, and then they may have a subcontractor finish the thing. Yep. Right. And so it's like, well, they might have 3 different GLs that feed 3 different account groups, but with the task, you have 1 set of dates. Yep. And so, I could understand if they were going to, if it needed to be broken out. I also would say, like, if that's a need for you, then just make more tasks, because that's what we've done in those cases. It's like, well, if you need to be able to associate dates with them, then make more tasks.
Yeah. I've just seen so many people that use the single task, right? Yeah. One task with 100 cost codes.
Gotcha.
And there's no way that that's going to change. So
I see.
Task makes the most sense because it already has the data you need, start and end dates, plan dates, things like that. But I think you would limit yourself if you just went with tasks, because there are so many different configurations that I've seen. And that one's probably the most prevalent, is that single cost task and then 100 line items.
Yeah, I will say that because see, we use a whole bunch of tasks, but that's
Yeah.
because it's kind of just like where we've ended up.
Yeah.
The cost code thing would be interesting though, because like one of the things that I would prefer is that on anything that we are buying, if there's a design element to it, I don't like a lot of traditional construction scheduling. It's like you have a section in your Microsoft project schedule that's design, and then a second that's procurement, and then a section that's install, and then maybe a section that's commissioning. Well, ideally, in my mind, it's like I want one schedule task that's got 3 sets of dates for that, right? Because it's just easier to read as opposed to saying, oh, my predecessor's up here, and then it's down here, and then it's down here, and then it's down here. So it's cleaner if you can go just across the one entire line. And so we've added a bunch of UDFs or attributes to tasks to account for that. But certainly in a native solution, you would need something more robust.
Yeah. Well, you could set up a custom, cost code for those different segments and put them
Yes.
underneath.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, if you schedule it at a budget level, then you could.
Yeah. Then you could group. I don't know. There's options. I'm just thinking with so many things in the system, this is what we've been talking about. It's configurable for all these different options. If you take that away and say you have to do it this way, you lose a lot of functionality.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think about the way you set up a project, right? Where you select your budget level, right? Project or task cost code, task item of cost code.
Schedule.
It's almost like you would have a schedule. You would have the same thing for the schedule, and then you would say it would be either project, task, or budget.
Feels like it should be done at this point, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, we basically just invented it. Come on.
What I think, to your point, Daniel, like the comment about it taking a year and a half to get to this point. This is the modern UI that you're looking at on the screen here, right? And it's a massive undertaking. I mean, they re-architected the whole product and recoded it. It's in .NET Core instead of regular .NET, which is a big difference. And anyways, you can see it on the front end, but there's also a huge back end component. And if this really is something that we can plug whatever data we want into, I don't see why it couldn't be projects down the side and then across, and then you could have another one that would easily be fired up. That would be your tasks on a single project. You got a filter here. You could have, see, this looks a lot like a generic inquiry. You've got 2 filters up here for this data on the left. You've got 2 filters here for this data on the right. And then you've got a card that when you hit view, it pops up data. But my understanding is it's all dynamic. So you'd be able to choose what fields show up on the pop-up, what's showing up on the chart, what's showing up on the left, and you'd be able to design it yourself, ideally. I just don't know if you have to write a little bit of code to do it. But I think my impression is they've done 95% of the work just getting this view, and then all we have to do is pipe different sets of data into it.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like with all the changes they've made. I say this all the time. Like, I don't know if y'all have worked in the Salesforce space or worked with that product at all. They went through all these upgrades to make it more user-friendly, less coding, more clicks. And so an admin can do basically anything. It feels like Acumatica is going that route with everything they put out, right? It's no longer you got to go and you got to write a C# or whatever code in there to fix something. You can do a lot of it natively and know nothing about coding. I know personally because I've broken a lot of things that way. So you got to break some eggs in a test environment. But for that's your thing. But for me in a test environment, but yeah, they let us. I mean, they give you a lot of power in the system for dumb people like me, which I really appreciate. Yeah. Anyways, I think you're right.
You mentioned Salesforce. It makes me think of the customer portal because, like, I don't know if it's the same thing, but these on the left look very similar to me to something they showed with the customer portal using the modern UI.
Yep.
This was Doug Johnson showing this. This looks kind of similar, and he was explaining that these are called cards, and you're able to decide what fields show up here, which it's a little thing, but I really like something like this because Acumatica has not been good at this historically because it does a ton of columns and you have to scroll left and right. But now you'd be able to have a wider, or at least
being able to stack it makes it more pleasing to the user.
Yes. Yeah. The grid is great for some things, but this makes it way easier to figure out what you're looking at because you can get way more fields on the screen this way than you can when they're just a little single line.
Yeah.
This is really cool. I'm excited about this. Also, shout out to Doug. That guy is the man. Every time he demos, kills it.
Doug Johnson's awesome.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
We have a comment. What's a test environment?
Great question, Andrew. If you could take that one.
It's really something that is for people who are boring and not fun. And it's like if you want to be a nerd but do something exciting, then deploy something new in a test environment, or do it in live. And then when it breaks and you don't know how to fix it, you call your VAR and you say, "I need your help."
Like it usually starts with, "Hey, I think I broke something," and then a screenshot. And then
I did blame it on
Andrew's
Dave
texting
once.
me. Did you? Good. That's okay. That's fine. I can take it.
I just thought y'all would get a kick out of that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fantastic.
I think the word for it, Andrew, is agile, right? Your approach is agile. The test environment approach is a stodgy, old way of doing things.
Another word might be messy.
So kind of in the same realm of the project scheduling and some of the new features, there was an announcement on the construction side of things, and forgive me if we're leaning the conversation too strongly to construction, but they have an integration with Job Planner, which could alleviate some of those scheduling things for some of the construction customers. Another partnership with Stack that they announced as well on the estimating side, which is traditionally something that we've struggled with selling to construction customers. They want an estimating solution if they're upgrading all their financial processes. They want something on the estimating side to take them out of spreadsheets. So that was something, I guess, on the scheduling side with Job Planner that could alleviate some of those issues while they get it into the system natively. But I just thought that was something interesting that could be a game changer for some of our construction customers.
Yeah, they mentioned those two are kind of key partners for the construction side, because then we have a holistic solution, right? You've got scheduling, you've got estimating, pre-construction, and I think Stack is shortly here going to release something about change orders on jobs, doing that through the estimator, which is fantastic. But they're going to essentially have a full offering between those, and then obviously they have payroll in Acumatica, and then they've got 2, 3, 4, a bunch of payroll options outside of it. So you can kind of go to a customer now and say, "Hey, we've got everything covered." You've got all sorts of AP automation in there that you can add on. I mean, it's a full solution, which is kind of what they're doing and why they integrated to these two partners. It was a whole, and now it's not.
Yeah, completely agree.
I would say on the estimating side with integrations, I'm just always interested to see how that really translates when you get to like the small and medium-sized businesses that typically end up on Acumatica, because everyone that I talk to in terms of estimating still does it in Excel. And while I think there's a lot of people that they might prefer to go to a system, I think one of the challenges that we've always had is when we've looked at estimating systems, they've either been too costly, too complicated, or some combination of the two. And I mean, so I think a lot of people in the SMB space in construction, they estimate in Excel, and that's how they want to do it, because they might have takeoff sheets built into it. And I know a lot of like robust estimating systems have takeoffs built into them. But I think a lot of times it's like, if you're in the SMB space, you might have 2 estimators. And so it's like, well, if I only have to teach 2 guys how to use my really complicated Excel file, I'd rather do that than spend $10,000 a year or whatever the number is. I think that'll just be, it'll be interesting to see how anyone that enters kind of that estimating ISV space is able to capture who the real target market is for Acumatica, because if you've got a $6 billion company, yes, they should not be estimating in Excel. And certainly they would probably go after an estimating solution. But on these SMBs, I think it's a tough nut to crack, because it's hard for companies to go change all of their estimating processes and then not feel like it was what they wanted.
No, it is a tall order.
Is already in the space then. Like, you just write back from Excel. There's your estimate. Vilixo is an estimating ISV, basically.
I mean, that's what we do, right? So we have an Excel workbook, and what we've gone a kind of a step further in, like, our workbook structures the uploads such that it kicks out a hierarchical proposal in PDF.
Mm-hmm.
So our guys, when they're estimating, they're writing their proposal, and so and then all the pricing ties and everything, foots and cross foots and all that sort of stuff. And so so for us, it's like, well, I mean, it's not that an estimating system wouldn't help us in terms of not blowing up a formula every once in a while or something like that. But truthfully, like, we haven't run into those issues with it. And part of it's because we have, got a team of 3 that use it. So yeah, they see a bug, or they say, hey, that number doesn't make sense. And we look at it, it's like, oh yeah, because you overwrote the formula. Don't do that. So
yeah.
I think another challenge is if you have a team of 25, even those people have done their estimating in Excel for years and years and years. And I guess it's the same issues of moving to an ERP system, but it's just easy to manipulate in an Excel document as opposed to a new system that they have to learn. And do they want to even do this, or should they just move to another company where they're still doing it in Excel so I don't have to learn anything new? And in the construction industry specifically, like, we're fiending for people. Like, you need to make sure that you're maintaining the talent that you have. And if implementing an estimating system is going to push you back there, it's why take the leap, Yeah.
I would say the key differentiator for me is number of users that need it, right? How often are you wrong, and how wrong are you? Mm-hmm. So if you estimate and you're underbidding every time, and it's a huge problem because you've got some formulas or some people just don't have controls, you got to fix that. And then on top of that, do you have a super user that can and does manage the Excel well? Like Andrew, obviously you can do that. Not everybody has an Andrew, frankly.
A nerd.
Yeah, nerd. You need a really quality nerd who just loves doing that. And then you need a team that complies with it. So I think that's for me when I say, okay, it's probably time to start looking at an estimating solution versus you can limp along with Excel. We can always work with it. It just doesn't have the controls. And like you said, change is hard, but sometimes you have to do it because it's too painful. But what is that pain threshold? That's where I kind of come to.
Yeah. Tim, we haven't heard from you. What's your favorite new feature announcement or et cetera that they made at Summit?
Well, I think AI was the cool one, but I think AI is still kind of out there,
it's not
right?
Here yet.
It's one thing to see a demo of it. It's another thing to actually see it make it in the product. And then it's another thing to actually get on the version that has it in the product, right? So out there. There is one, though, that is there as of 24R2. And I haven't played with it much personally, but it was the anomaly detection. And Doug Johnson, who we gave a shout out to already, highlighted this, but he also called out Doug McBride at Alaska Indoor Sports, who I've done some Power BI work with. So that was cool to see those dashboards up on the screen. But he talked about something they did here, and maybe a little grainy to see, but in Alaska, invoices sending out by mail, and Alaska being very remote, how many days it takes a customer to pay kind of depends on the specific customer. And so the example they showed here was, this is when invoices are getting paid. There's this anomaly detection tab, and you actually get to group by, looks like, multiple fields. And I haven't been able to play with this in a demo environment because you need to be licensed for it, because I assume it's using Azure on the back end, but I don't know. So there's some meter that they get charged for, and so you have to be paying to use it. But they grouped by customer here, and then what it kicked out is it kicked a list of anomalies. But what you can see here is, see this expected value column? If you come down to this 089 customer, there's 3 records in a row, so they all have the same expected value, but just for that customer. And then it's looking at days that are, I don't know, way up or way down compared to what they expect for that customer. And so I like the flexibility that it's right in a generic inquiry. I'm curious on the construction side, since this is very construction themed. Do you see something useful here for like budget overruns by project or by code or by something like that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that immediately come to mind. Low-hanging fruit. You've got change orders, right? When you do a change order, you write it, you need approval, whether it's internal or the customer signing off. So how long are our change orders out there? Obviously, budget is super important. So are we running over on projects? Some customers have talked about like a cash flow by project. So, I've got this project and we're negative on cash flow for it, or we're positive on cash flow for it. Different than a, revenue recognition type thing. It's just, when are we getting payments in versus payments for the materials or subs? And are we doing well on the project? So that's something that I think you could maybe set up to run in something like this. Like, hey, you need to, this project has not paid on time, and thus you're putting more cash into the project than you're getting out of it and running a deficit. So stuff like that I could see. Trying to think if there's anything else. Those are the main ones. It's all about money. It's all about, maybe if you have maybe a daily cadence or a weekly cadence, is someone missing? That always comes up. So like, did someone submit their daily field report this week, or are we missing that? What anything that you can think of, Andrew, on your company?
I think the hard part with some of this anomaly detection is that I think a lot of the way, like the data that it's going to bring you is going to be transactional, right? It's going to be based on transactional data sources.
Mm-hmm.
And so the part that I imagine is that a lot of times the folks that are doing that transactional work, you start to talk about, hey, this is showing up as a potential anomaly. And then a lot of times it's like, well, how does it know that? Well, it's really just a complicated math problem that's saying, and I'm not trying to say it's just math.
So it's not just math.
That wasn't even
it's a complicated math.
Yeah. But the problem is, I think a lot of times, right, if you have people that are doing transactional work, it'll be hard for them to understand why it's showing us up as an anomaly. So I don't know. I do think, I don't know, like this one especially, I think was I'm like, well, wouldn't you just look at your AR and AP? Like this is the one where I'm like, I don't know how much this tells me, because it's an AR AP thing.
It's also been there for, I want to say, a couple releases. They just haven't highlighted it. I don't know if y'all have noticed it. Every time I scroll down, I'm like, what is anomaly detection? Sounds really cool. But
it was 24R2. Yeah, it was just the last version. That's when they introduced it.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. And maybe it was in beta that I was looking at it, and it was in there. As you can, what do they call those at the very bottom of the enable disable screen? It's like questionable.
Yeah, is it experimental features?
Experimental. Questionable.
I don't think it's questionable.
I would say questionable. I wouldn't
features.
personally, unless you're testing. Yeah, questionable.
And who would ever do that?
No one on this call would ever test anything, especially
at
in live.
all.
So we have another use case here. Could be useful in CRM to ID missed opportunities.
It's also true. I think it gets back to, some of this is all about how good is your data anyways, because if you put that into our CRM, and let's say our sales reps aren't updating it as frequently as they should, it's going to say an anomaly is you haven't touched an opportunity in 9 weeks, when in reality you're talking to them every week. We just haven't updated the system. So the data has to be there, but that would be helpful. I know we catch things all the time, just reviewing them as a team. Like, let's walk through these opportunities, and if it could surface that might be valuable.
Yeah.
And I think the key is that grouping thing. So Andrew, your point about why wouldn't you just look at your AR, right? I think the point in this example is that there's no standard number of days across all the customers, right? So that's why you have different numbers in this column. This customer typically takes 127 days because it takes forever for the mail to get to them.
Yeah.
This one's only 41. And what those numbers are, you don't know. Like, you could put an attribute on the customer that stores those values, but you'd have to do it for every customer, and those values would change over time, right? So that's why it was a good use case here. When you then talk about like opportunities, that might not be a good example if you have a standard number of days that someone should be touching opportunities on, right? So I think this anomaly detection is only useful when there's a bunch of values that you would have to manually manage in attributes, and you want the system to kind of recalculate them for you. That's how I've been looking at it.
So hear me out.
Yeah, that's fair.
What if we created a GI and you pulled all AR invoices against a customer, average those on one side of a split join. I use the report rows multiplier to do this, and it's horrible from a effectiveness. What's the word I'm looking for? Efficiency standpoint. But you pull all of them and you get your average, and then you pull in one record against all of them and you get your one versus the average. You end up having a ton of record joins, but you could do it. I wonder if that's what it's doing in the background anyways.
That's interesting.
Just storing that in a table.
That's interesting.
Because then you wouldn't have to manage it. But I don't recommend this. If anybody, probably no one is listening, but that would not be a good clean join. That's not a Daniel approved join. I wouldn't do it. So
you're saying I should go try it?
Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, sorry. This is how my mind works. What if we did that, but made it a sub GI and pulled it into the GI and referenced it against your record? Then you
I think it's actually simple. It's an average and it's just one join to it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a
problem solved. Yeah. This is not at all what we're talking about, but Salina loves this stuff.
No, yeah, I love the joins.
All the nerdy
there's an unreleased recording of us discussing data joins.
It was really good.
ERP building bytes. We'll have to take it out of the vault soon. Well, David said it could be useful for reporting as well. I know you guys kind of danced around that, but any other specific reporting use cases that you guys could think of?
It's really going to come down to I said this before, but like the data underneath being clean will give you a good baseline. If your data is not great, your baseline's not going to be great. And
then we have another comment along that same line. It would be great to have clean data.
Yeah. This is probably not what they were intending, but what if you found a way to, instead of targeting customers and external parties, targeted, hey, of my team, who is putting things in wrong? Who's making, who's delaying payments? Like when a approval is in someone's name, why is it sitting for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Now you're just grouping by owner essentially and looking for anomalies that way. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we slap their wrists if they.
That was not the point, but we optimize it to make sure they know that the data is there, that they have something to approve. Maybe there's not a business event firing off,
Actually, when David talks about reporting, what it made me think of, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this. So we talked about Mitten. He was just hired in August. I thought it was longer ago than that.
That's wild.
But he was showing some back on the AI front, but related to reporting. So he was showing on essentially a report type of a screen, right, where you're looking for information. You're wanting to then do that natural language query. And the key part, though, for me was you can kind of drill in, you can get a response, but then you can view the data in a chart. And then you could view the chart. And what I noticed up here, see how the screen is SO3010ML? Yeah. Well, then he hit view chart. And the next thing you saw was DB, an actual dashboard screen. So it looked, I don't know if it built a screen on the fly. I don't know what it did, but it put the chart on an actual screen. My question, though, is right now, dashboards, which is what we're looking at, are all sitting on top of generic inquiries. Did it build a generic inquiry on the fly? I doubt it. Did it? What's underlying this data? And maybe it's just math, but can it do it again? Right. So is this a static? I kind of have a feeling this is a static graph that's not going to refresh, but I don't know what your impression was.
My immediate thought, I love that you track the screen IDs, by the way, Tim. That's fantastic. You're going to like this comment then. I think their dashboards start at like 40 out of the box. So like 46 means they either tested it only 6 times and it created 6 new dashboards, or they created it manually for this whole process. So auto numbering, dead giveaway, right? So I think it's probably a static thing. You create this and then you say, okay, if we get questions about this type of data, it can come here. I think building a GI on the fly is probably more possible than the dashboard right away. I could be wrong, but I feel like with the DAX schema browser and all the joins it knows, with the data there, maybe it could produce some sort of generic inquiries. But I do kind of feel like you're going to have to provide some of that, at least day one. It would be nice if not, but I think that your assumption is right. You have to kind of build the path for it to run down.
Yeah, the reason why I brought it up in the context of David's comment on reporting is you got all this AI, great. You got the anomaly detection, but we want to store those results. So whether we're talking about this AI assistant thing or whether we're back on the anomaly detection, I think we need a way to store the results and almost come up with a data warehouse of anomalies and AI output, right? And I don't know how they're going to do that. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, because that'd also be interesting to like also be able to clean it up at some point. Because if it really was generating a new GI, generating a new dashboard every time somebody did that, like you're gonna just, your sitemap would be an absolute mess if it's publishing them, and even if it's not publishing them, those screen IDs exist. And so I would just be curious what that would end up doing to performance.
Or is it going to erase everything and rewrite it every time they run it? Which that's probably not effective either, because now you're recreating the wheel every single time you prompt it. So it's interesting. This is exactly what I think Salina was hoping we would talk about. So
yeah,
glad we got
100%. Yeah. No, I think everybody's enjoying it. And a cute little comment here said, Timmy must have been sitting in the front row to get all these screens.
Nice.
Front and center. Tim does.
Well, actually, the good-looking ones, I went back to the recordings and took it out of there. Otherwise, it's still even on the front row, it's not great. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all saw it or not, but Tim walked on stage for every one of them, snapped a little pic, and then walked back down. So.
Hey guys, hold on. Excuse me one second.
Hold on. Just one
Tim
second.
Rodman, AG Forums.
Senke, give me a minute. I got to get this picture. Yeah.
Well, those are the big things. We really dived into AI. I think. What are you guys thinking about the modern UI? Are we loving those? I'm a sucker for the round buttons. Corners. Everybody that works with me knows that I hate the rigid edges. I love a rounded corner, but anything.
Trying to see if we can round our corners in StreamYard here. Yeah.
Nah, Salina said user adoption is like some percentage higher with rounded corners.
No, it is
like people like rounded edges. It feels softer and safer.
Mm-hmm.
So
it increases it. I think it's because like those rigid straight edges aren't as naturally occurring in nature. I don't know. There's some science behind it.
That's why the iPhone is shaped the way it is.
Yeah, it's inviting.
Yeah. See, I didn't make it up. Daniel.
You didn't make it up.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't doubting you for what it's worth. I didn't verify it, but I did say that sounds about right. The maths.
I like the look. What I don't like is it takes up more space. I don't know what you.
That's fair.
About that.
There's a lot more wasted
space between fields.
Oh, I see. I wonder if that's possible to reduce, though. You know what I mean? I haven't played around with it enough, but I think, frankly, as a partner, I think for the first release, we're probably going to deal with some issues because anytime you roll something new out, there's issues. But I think they've kind of slowed it a little bit because it was supposed to be like 24R2. It was out fully, right? Or 24R1. And they did beta instead. So hopefully that's not the case, but I always think about the support side, right? If someone goes in, this probably would never happen. But let's say Andrew decides he's going to change all of his screens himself. And then everyone shows up in the office 10 minutes later and nothing works. Like, how do I support that? So that's my only concern. But
not how Andrew supports that, how you support that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Daniel problem, not an Andrew.
Yeah. Go ahead and just log in as my user and do it all too, so that they,
Yep. That's weird. It says strategies group did that. Because did we say that strategies won partner whatever construction partner of the year? Did we say that?
Did we have to though?
I think we do have to.
Yeah. We do.
We don't like to talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
I'll hit that one. Hold on, I got it here somewhere.
Yeah, come on,
what did I do? Yeah, thanks.
We were nominated for 2, and then we won 1, which was super exciting. I was thinking to myself, in the past when we didn't win and we weren't even nominated, I was frustrated. So I couldn't imagine how frustrated I'd be not winning with 2. So very
Trailed?
exciting.
I had to get the trailed one on here.
That's trailed, yeah.
You did win. You won the construction partner of the year, but we were both fine. The big ones, like the 2 big ones, are the partner of the year and the ISV partner of the year. and Trailed and Strategies Group were finalists in both of those categories. Neither one of us won, but we
top
were
4, right?
Yeah, top 4. It's pretty
as
good.
far as any of us know, number 2. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll claim it. We're claiming it now. We were number 2.
That's true.
Yeah, no, it's really cool to be honored like that because, like you said, top 4, and there's so many options out there and so many partners in both the ISV space and the VAR space. So just being top 4 was really, really cool for us.
Yeah, and it was even sweeter having a customer be construction customer of the year. I know a lot of our customers have come up to us and said, we're going to be on stage, Andrew included.
First time I met Andrew,
Yeah.
he said 2 years from now, I'm going to be customer or a construction customer of the year.
I did not. I didn't put a timeline on it. That's
I feel like you did. No, you might have a better memory.
I just said we would. Yeah.
Well, either way, you did it. So congrats. Very cool.
I wish I had a screenshot of that one. I miss getting that.
He emailed you like the night before, right? He was like, by the way, y'all won. Make sure you're there and you're up front.
Yeah.
No, he came up to him the night before.
Well, that's true. Well, he came up to tell me, like, hey, did you see my email? And I was like, no, I've been in sessions all day. Yeah.
Amazing.
So back to the meat and potatoes. Do you think the modern UI will be a huge differentiator against NetSuite?
Probably.
I do. Actually, my first thought on it was against Dynamics. Like, I've used Dynamics Business Central. It's just really slow. And the new UI is because it's not just a new UI. They really recoded the entire product. It's really a new ERP product. And that's why it's taken multiple years.
Yep.
And I'll try to avoid getting too technical on it. But basically, there's now a front end and it's separated. So I don't know how to describe it better than that. Like APIs get better. Just saves get faster. It's just way faster. Screens load way faster. And then it enables them to do more of this interesting stuff, like we saw in the customer portal, like we saw in that board that could probably be used for project scheduling. And I'll hit another one real quick here on the shop floor kiosk pro. This is a prototype that they're working on, but check that out. I think that looks pretty cool. This is something you'd be able to use these same type of UI components on any screen, and they're doing something that's designed for a shop floor, that's designed for a tablet, but it has to do with all that work that they've been doing the last few years, really, to sort of decouple the front end from the back end. And I think that's why you're now seeing more and more of this cool stuff that we can actually see on the front end. But it's all the result of the years of recoding the product that they put into it. So I think it's a big deal. We call it new UI, but it's really a lot more than that. But that point, I do think it's a big point, whether it's against NetSuite, Dynamics, or any of the other ERPs out there.
And Tim, you mentioned it's just a whole new platform. I said it's one of our customers or prospects, I don't remember, we were talking, and I said the past 2 to 3 years minimum, they've just been redoing everything in the actual architecture, right? And so that has set them up for a better trajectory. And I think, like you said, we're about to see the output of that. Now that the base is built that we couldn't see, we're going to start seeing all the benefits of that work. And it's going to be, I feel like it almost feels like the last really, I didn't really love this, but the last innovative, huge thing that Acumatica did was the Alexa integration, right? When they showed it and they did the dot on stage and they're like, pull up my financials. And it I don't know, verbally said financials, which was wild, but that felt like, cutting edge innovation at the time. A little bit of a pause because they were fixing the architecture, and now we're back to it. We're getting back into the AI. We're moving forward with those things, which I'm pumped about. It's really cool.
Interesting.
Well, we've reached the hour. I don't know what y'all's schedules look like, but if there's any last things that you think we should have mentioned in terms of Summit, the product updates.
Daniel's currently raising his hand like a third grader.
I'm highlighting David's comment while he does that. Go ahead.
Can we make sure we do a clap before we
Oh my God.
No. Please.
No.
Please. I've done it on every video. Humor me.
You do it at the beginning though.
Yeah, I know, but
we already missed it. It's too late.
Okay, we have a question though. How fast will it be loading in this new AI or UI, not AI?
Faster. That's happening. I don't know.
Well, actually, this was demoed either last year or maybe even the year before. They were showing the sales order screen, and actually, you can play with it now. You can play with it now, and actually, you can turn it on and off by screen in the sitemap. So you can just try it yourself. Go into the sitemap. When you install it, make sure you check the box that says Enable Modern UI, and then you go to the sitemap and you decide screen by screen whether it's modern or classic. There's a column for it. So just try it. You'll see. It's mainly the screen load that I'm talking about. It's just a lot snappier. And it has to do with it's funny to me. The logic is now sitting more in your browser. The browsers have gotten fast enough and smart enough. That's why it's not having to call all the logic back on the server. That's why it's faster. But you'll just try it out and you'll be able to see it load faster.
Tim, you're much smarter than me on this. Does that mean clearing cache is going to fix more problems because it's caching more there? Is that how that works?
I think it's actually less, but I don't know for sure. I think now data is just going back and forth as JSON. I don't know how the cache is still involved. I don't know.
Okay.
But
cool.
Yeah, I think the cache is now local instead of, I don't fully understand it, but I think it's less of an issue, the cache. My understanding.
Cool.
Yeah. But it really should be called a different name almost, right? I'm glad Acumatica hasn't rebranded. Thank you. Please don't ever rebrand.
Don't do that.
I hate it when
they rebranded a year ago with the new logo.
Oh, that's true. We got a new logo.
That's in line.
But I mean a new name. It almost should get a new name because it's an entirely new product, right? But please don't do that, Acumatica, please.
Will be a lot of groundwork that we just lose.
A lot of groundwork.
To be fair, I get a lot of questions about Acumatica as a name that people are like, why did you name it that? I'm like, I'm glad you asked because I was the one who named it, like no one asked me.
I spelled it with 2 C's, but someone else made it 1 C,
Yeah.
One of our staff members referred to it as Informatica for the first year. Which I'm like, that's actually not a horrible name. Like
rebrand, right? Okay. Do we have any more questions, Salina?
Yeah, no more questions, but I did want to leave us with this comment. I really enjoyed this webinar. Great discussion. So I think we might have to do more of these. I don't know. Seems like we have to give the people what they want.
We did ask Doug Johnson at Summit if he was available, but too last minute. He's crammed with demos this week. But yeah, maybe we could circle back in a month or two, get Doug on there and kind of go into the release notes on 25R1 and get even more detailed on this.
Nice.
I mean, that's if we didn't get detailed enough.
That would be fun. Honestly, if we could even if we could do things in the system, I've always had the desire to demo live and just take prompts from people
and not plan ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't plan ahead much anyways. And Acumatica anyways, I didn't present this year, but they don't really appreciate that. I usually come up with a plan on my walk to the presentation. I have like a rough outline. And then when I get up there, it's fine. That's when I shine.
Mm-hmm. On his walk to the presentation where he arrives 2 minutes late.
I was on time this past time.
Once.
On time. It was, I think it was 2 minutes late one week. I'm supposed to be there 15 minutes early, mind you. And I'm like sprinting and I'm 2 minutes late.
Sweaty.
Heidi was not happy with me. She told me I will not let you present again, but the people had their way. And so I got on stage a second time. And that time I was on time. So I'm trending in the right direction. I think eventually I'll be early.
Hey, also, if the new UI or whatever you want to call it, the new architecture
Informatica, I think was what we
Informatica, yeah. If Informatica 2.0, when it is live and that's what we're doing demos at whatever event center on the moon where the next one is, then you could do it live because it will load so much faster. You won't have to worry about hotel Wi-Fi.
This is true.
That's true.
When it doesn't, I'm going to go, Tim.
So my understanding, I'll clarify, it's the screen loads that are way faster. When you hit save, it still has to write data back, and that's still a database thing, which, by the way, I got to bring this one up. I heard, did you guys hear this? They might be moving to Postgres as the SQL backend.
I didn't. I did hear that they might be looking at other options, but yeah.
The new UI allows them to run on Apache instead of IIS, which will make it better for their cloud. But yeah, then I didn't know the SQL is potentially getting changed in the future as well. Yeah. agnostic
Sweet stuff.
technology, basically.
That's awesome. And you think that'll be a performance improvement, right? Hopefully.
I think databases are always slow to write back to. Yeah, so whether you're on the moon or not, I think it's that save button's always going to be a little slow. Yeah.
I mean, if you got Starlink, you know.
God.
Internet anywhere. Yeah, there's an affiliate link in the post, so Andrew gets a kickback.
Yeah, if anybody needs any grain bins, let us know.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments about what we could talk about next. So I think you guys are signed up for some more of these in the future.
Wow.
But I think that's all the time we have today. I think everybody has to get back to their day job. So I will allow the clap, but we have to get it right the first time.
Okay,
and I'm not redoing it.
Hold on, real quick here. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to clap so that we can figure out what the delay is like. Okay. Just for a test.
This is not a Florida Gator clap.
Totally unaffiliated. I just happen to do it this way. You could do it however you want.
No, Daniel loves the Florida Gators.
It's not true. I'm an Auburn fan.
I
All right.
figured it was weird.
Auburn is a basketball school. We don't do football anymore. All right, Salina, 1, 2, 3. Well, there's like a 3-second delay there. Okay.
What?
Oh yeah. All right. Try it again. 1, 2, 3.
What?
Okay. Hold on.
We're at the same time. I thought it was like an in order thing.
It is supposed to be.
Did we happen at the same time?
No, y'all all happened delayed. So
I didn't even
I
clap.
will say on 3, Salina, you clap. Tim, you clap just slightly after 3, and Andrew slap a little bit after that. All right, 1, 2, 3. That was atrocious.
We have to call it. Okay.
Last try. 1, 2, 3. That was better. It wasn't good. I'm going to be honest with y'all. That was not good.
Never again, Daniel.
Not our best work.
Remote clapping doesn't work.
It just this time it didn't work. It usually works but it didn't work this time. It's because we're doing it live. Count to 5. I appreciate the optimism, David. I'm not sure if that's the problem here. This is an ID 10T error, I think. What is the other one? Problem exists between keyboard and chair, something like that. It's basically a user problem. So, all right.
Well,
appreciate y'all's
signing off. Yeah.
See y'all.
Yeah. Bye, guys.